I'm Laura Becker-Lawler, and as board president, it's my honor and my job and my pleasure to call to order the 2022 annual meeting of the Sasquanaug Association. Welcome. I want to ask everyone, did you remember to set your clocks back? Well, you probably wouldn't be here, would you? So, for my first order of business, I'd like to approve the minutes of the 2021 annual meeting last year, which should be with you in your packet. If you don't have them, you can get a copy. And I would like to make a motion to... Thank you. That was easy. You guys have been around this racetrack. Thank you so much for showing up today on such a beautiful day. We really appreciate your coming. We couldn't do anything without your support, your time, your talent, and your energy, and your passion for Southport. As a nonprofit, we really depend on our members and volunteers to help us do everything we do for the community. So we're really appreciative. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. We are also recording the meeting and streaming it. So say hi to everyone at home, wherever they are. And if you are a current member, could you raise your hand, all current members? Wow, that's great, that's great. Not sure? Okay. Thank you. Please tell everybody you know today, here, every day forward, whether you're in town, at the beach, taking a walk, on the train platform, please tell everyone you know to become a member of the Sasquanaug and to see how great it feels to contribute to an organization that's 135 years old. So please, we'd love to get new members, and I hope some of you join us today. We have plenty of, also in your packet is a membership envelope that you can use to join. I'd also like to thank very quickly Stephanie Grace, the Pequot Library, for hosting us today at our meeting, Local baker, yeah, thank you, Pequot. Local baker, who's not here, but Baked by Hannah, who's a high school senior who baked our beautiful 135, well, they're not 135, but 135 shaped cupcakes to celebrate our anniversary today. And she's quite an entrepreneur. She started her business during COVID, and you can see her on Instagram, Baked by Hannah. Highly recommended. Cecily Dyer, I don't think she's here today. She's a special collections librarian who helped with some of the visuals today and the research that we did. I'd like to thank the fire marshal, the police chief, the town clerk, and the state of Connecticut for approving our temporary liquor permit. Which is really hard to, has anyone here filed for a temporary, besides Grace? It's not easy. And the fire marshal came here today, so I'm lucky I brought it. But so we can serve champagne, which we plan to serve after the meeting to toast 135 years of the Sasquanaug. So on your chairs, like I said, you have a packet with the minutes, a treasurer's report, our hot off the press year in review brochure, which we're very excited about. I don't think we've had a brochure like that for maybe 135 years. I don't know. I'm not in my lifetime. And we're very excited about that, which will share some of the things we do and our highlights and what we're about. We also have a poem that I dug up in the special collections, which was on the 50th anniversary of the Sasquanaug, which would be 1937. Wait, is that right? 50th anniversary. And it was written by Mrs. Louise Jennings for Miss Virginia Perry. I understand that name comes up a lot in the research, Perry Green, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary in 1927. And it was really, It was really, talk louder. Okay. It was really very poignant to read it. And it was interesting to read it. First of all, the handwriting's so beautiful. I could never write a poem like that. And it's so interesting to read it now and see that it still applies now today in 2022, everything she writes about. The only thing that threw me was she refers to Memorial Green, which I'm guessing became Perry Green, if anybody knows that. You think? Robinson Cottage was oh, okay, so Robinson Cottage was Memorial Green. And they also had a band here called Pioneer Band, so I don't know anything about that, but it's worth looking into. So some of you may not have attended an annual meeting before, and so I'm just going to quickly walk you through what we're going to do today. We're going to try to get the business out of the way so we can have fun and try to be brief. We're changing it up this year. I mean, our annual meetings that have been a little bit more business. Come on in, Aloe. Aloe. Our past meetings have been a little bit more business-like, maybe sedate, so we're trying to make this more fun, festive, and celebratory because we're really just making it all about celebrating Southport. And so we mixed it up a little bit this year, and we're glad. This is a great turnout, so we're really excited. Thank you so much. But we're going to be having more of a collaborative meeting, a conversation about Southport. And we have also on your chairs, you're going to see, you may be sitting on it, but a pencil and an index card. And that's going to come in handy later. We'll walk you through what that's for, but that's going to involve your participation in a short time. So what we're going to do is we're going to review highlights, a brief financial report from our treasurer, an introduction to our new board of trustees, a sneak peek ahead at some of the highlights for 2023, and a conversation led by a panel of a few Southport icons and fans. Capping it all off with refreshments and light bites in the back and a champagne toast. Again, we want this to be a comfortable, collaborative meeting, so please feel free to share your comments, questions, and stories of your own. Oh, I need my clicker. Sorry. This is me. Nice. My bio. So I've spent a lot of time. Has anyone here been up in the special collections room upstairs yet? It's unbelievable. It's so remarkable. I don't know how long ago, Grace, it was put in place, but 4 years? Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay. So I just discovered it recently, and it's unbelievable. There's such a treasure trove up there. And I've spent the past couple of weeks getting ready for this meeting by digging through the Sasquanaug treasure chest, which is actually a cardboard box, but it's unbelievable. It's so remarkable. And I encourage everyone to get you have to have an appointment to go up there. You can see Stephanie, who's back there, or Cecily Dyer, who's the special collections curator or librarian. And it was really cool to go through things from the past 135 years and see what was found somewhere, collected. Everything from, well, this is really inspiring. These are the founders, the original founders of the Sasquanaug in 1887. And these were all ladies, women, who did things like, really big things, like they put bluestone sidewalks everywhere so people didn't get splashed by the God knows what, muck and mud when they're in their hoop skirts and their trousers, right? John Herzog was telling us about in front of his house. And some of those sidewalks are still there today. They also provided They found a way to get kerosene delivered for the, they put in street lamps, and they got kerosene oil delivered. They even have a bill for the kerosene from the lamplighter they hired, whose name was Charles McClellan. I mean, it's just really, it's kind of a rabbit hole, so make sure you have a couple of hours if you go up there. But these women devoted themselves to improving and beautifying Southport. And I like to think of them as sort of inspiring and sort of carrying the torch of what they began 135 years ago. They really had their priorities straight. They had their first party in 6 months after they were founded. I mean, we don't have that many parties. We're going to have more, like today. But they had what they called garden parties or festivals, and they were not small. And they had music, they had ice cream, they had hot air balloons, Perry Green. I don't know if we'd be allowed to do that now. They had fancy bags that they sold, and they had ice cream for 15 cents. They would have harvest suppers and just parties all the time. They had, what else did they do? They had fortune tellers, and they had, I mean, I was looking at some of the, I think we have some of the, I made copies of some of the, so on the left is a utility sale. I'm not sure what that is, but it seems like it's probably they're selling household articles, like candles, or candies, sorry, need my glasses, at Mrs. Oliver Bulkley's house. And should the weather, as the afternoon named, prove stormy, the sale will be held on the next succeeding fair afternoon. Just love the way they wrote. I also love the house rules for the Sea Lodge, and some of them still apply, like you still can't ride bicycles on the deck, but you can wear a bathing suit because we're a little less modest. But the house rules effective 1920. And then they had these fabulous harvest suppers. I really want to bring these back. So if anyone wants to see me after, if you want to chair that committee. This is the menu from 1895. And they had, ice cream was an extra 15 cents. I'm not sure what I feel about corn tongue. I don't know if that would taste good, but they had interesting, like, relishes. I mean, look at all the, can you see this? You see the relishes, the celery, pickled beets, chow chow, and Worcestershire sauce. Anyway, it was just really fascinating. They would have these to raise money for the Sasquanaug, for the town, and put it right back into the community. So this brings us up to our present day. We had a very busy year the past year. We started having a lot more events, trying to become more of a community organization. I found a couple of years ago when we'd just ask anecdotally if people knew who we were, people who've lived here a long time, or my neighbors, they didn't know who we did or what we did or what we were for. And so we spent a lot of time over the past couple of years doing marketing and messaging and reaching out and trying to embrace more of the community and not be such a secret society. So one of the things we've done to execute that is to have events. We managed the Southport Park. Has everyone been there or know where it is? It's next to the Equinox. And we manage that and oversee it. And we're very excited that next year we'll be breaking ground on a new educational history path in a trail in the park with the Fairfield History Museum. And we had an Earth Day event. I personally have attended almost every, the Sasquanaug has sponsored an Earth Day event since we moved here in '92. And they used to be more of a cleanup where you'd go around. There used to be a lot of trash before we took it on. There used to be a lot of liquor bottles and stuff in the woods. So they would clean up every Earth Day. But since we've taken it on, it's become much nicer. And we have a little playground in there. We have a little, not an arena, what do we call that? Well, Sephra's not here, is she? We have a little area where kindergarten kids and nursery school kids come for story time and to learn about gardens. So we had an Earth Day event this year for the community, and we made new garden beds, and we planted Southport Globe onions, which is, I don't know if you know how famous we are. We were once the Southport Globe onion capital of the world. Unfortunately, the onions didn't make it this year because of shade, but we tried, and now we have the garden beds that we can plant other things in and try again. So we had a great event for Earth Day. We had our first happy hour or, meet and greet at the shoe. I hope I think some of you were there. I recognize some people. Again, just trying to get more connected to the community and having people get to know us and have fun. And then we had our block party, our 3rd annual block party in September, right here on the lawn. We got a great turnout. I think at last count we had about 450 people. A lot of them were new faces and new families with young kids. We had not one, but 2 bouncy houses. Well, we had a bouncy house and a slide. And it was so great to see all the new faces coming. And I know a lot of new families have moved to Southport, so we were really happy to host this event with the Pequot. It was really fun. And we sponsored, we do a lot of collaborative events. We did, for the Blessing of the Fleet, we had a free ice cream truck, which was very popular. Very popular down by the lower wharf. And on July 4th, we had a coffee welcome table at the start of the parade for, parents who were maybe a little tired, needed a quick pick-me-up. And so we had a welcome table at the beginning of the parade. And Holiday Week this year, which is coming up, we're working with the Southport Nonprofit Roundtable on some great events, the 8th through the 11th. So stay tuned to our website and to our social media to see more on that. And our town, this is the highlight. So this is before and after pictures. We sponsored and purchased and found, and Jenny's not here to thank, but Jenny Murphy was incredible on finding this, well, first of all, sourcing this problem of how the town green was just a problem with the garbage and people's dogs stuff louder. And so we looked into making the Perry Green prettier with a nice trash receptacle. And Jenny found this beautiful one. That was before and after. And then we also got one for the lower wharf, which I believe might be there. I'm not sure if it's there yet, but we've purchased that. And we got this is all the trash slide kind of. We got no, it's not something you realize until after it's there, but before and after, next to Spick and Span and the Driftwood was a dumpster, and we got a dumpster enclosure. So these are things that aren't that romantic and fun, but you have to think about it. When one of our missions is to make Southport or keep Southport beautiful. So this is part of that. And membership. So membership, like I said, we depend and rely on membership to keep us going. We'd love to expand our members. So if you're not a member, please join. And it's just a way to keep us going on forward. Okay. We have a lot that lies ahead. Before we get on to the fun part, no offense, George, I'm going to introduce George Russell, our treasurer, to share the fun treasurer's report with you. You need a slide. Do you have a slide? Oh.
Thank you, Laura. So this should only take about an hour to give you this report. But so we distributed our treasurer's report, and the first page there is our balance sheet. And I should preface my report by saying that we've always been a nonprofit organization. but we were a 501c4 nonprofit. And through the hard work of Sharon, which I think she might get up and talk about, we applied for and received the 501c3 designation. So now donations to Sasquanaug are tax deductible, which is amazing. And so as a part of that, we always had a fiscal year that ended on the 31st of May. But because of the new designation, the IRS made us in 2021 go to a 12/31 anniversary date. So what you're looking at here is the first year of this new fiscal period, and then the numbers year to date, so till October 31st. So, you know, as of today, or as of October 31st, we had $36,433 in our checking account and $252,141 in our money market account. We own these various properties, but they're all, they're not marketable. They're all deed restricted. So these numbers you see here are kind of like acquisition costs, is how it's been explained to me by the accountants. But, you know, like the Southport Park, 11 acres in Southport would probably be worth millions and millions of dollars. But because of the way it's deed restricted, if we ever gave up the property, it would have to be given to another organization to use it the same way. So those are our assets. You know, we have an outstanding loan with Sea Lodge that they've been paying back $1,000 a year. Our only liability is our tenant's deposit, $3,600. So that's our balance sheet. And then the next page is our profit and loss statement. So our, I guess our major source of income is the rental income from the Robinson Cottage. But Robinson Cottage is also a very expensive property to maintain. There's always something going on there that needs to be done and get fixed. And then, you know, we have our membership dues. But if you look at this report and see the number here, like last year, we took in $17,547 in dues. This year, it only shows $4,960. It's because right now is when we solicit our dues. So the next 2 months are when, you know, the majority of our dues money comes in. What else can I say about this? Okay, so, you know, on the expense side, I guess the big thing is to point out events. We mentioned we're having a lot more events, so the numbers are way up on the expenses for events. Legal fees, yeah, not only that, but legal fees, we this past year spent, you know, $13,314 in legal fees to represent Sasquanaug at different town commissions regarding developments and things, and there is a lot going on. I mean, you know, some of you might have heard about the new condos that's going to go in next to the Chase Bank. You know, the developers were very good. They went back and forth with us, but things like that, we have to pay, you know, attorneys to represent us at these things, and, you know, it adds up. So those numbers are way up. You know, repairs and maintenance is way down this year. And we also mentioned the new walkway project at the path project at Southport Park. You know, we spent close to $10,000 on that just this year. Another thing to note is that because we got our 501c3 designation, we thought it was redundant to have a separate organization, the Friends of Southport Park, which we formed to be a 501c3 to get tax-deductible funds to renovate the park. So last year, we actually dissolved that organization and merged it with the Sasquanaug group. So we took the funds that they had and have it now in our bank account, which was $27,050. At the end of the day, as it stands today, you know, we're down $4,465 since the start of the year. But as I said, we haven't started our dues solicitation until just now. So the numbers are going to look a lot different in a couple months, but that's what I got for you. So does anyone have any questions? Or if you want to talk to me afterwards, just let me know and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have a question? Any questions? Oh, you were just waving.
All right. Well, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. By the way, I forgot to thank my husband, Thomas, who's in the back doing the streaming and tech AV. So I'm sorry. And, okay. Next, I'd like to introduce Sharon Clammer from our board, who heads up, who's the chair of our nomination committee, to introduce the new class of 2022-2023. You want?
Let's switch places.
Yeah. You want me to make this lower?
Yeah. Let's see what we can do here.
How's that?
Can everybody hear me? How's that? Good. Let's go. I have the great pleasure of being chair of nominating for this wonderful organization. And this year, we have a stellar cast. We have as president, here we go, Laura Becker-Larler. We have as vice president, Olivia Stone and Jake Chang. Should have started with Jake. Treasurer, George Russell. Assistant treasurer, I wear many hats, so I do that too. Secretary, Peg North. Assistant Secretary, Ellen Ringel Boyle. And then for the Board of Trustees, we have Sephra Alexandra, who is one of the people who joined us from Friends of Southport Park. And Sephra could not make it today, but she is a marvelous person. Go on the website and look up her name. She's really into seeds, all kinds of seeds. Heritage seeds. She's a favorite with garden clubs, and she's just the right person for us to help us manage the park. Fran Dubicki, who's returning. Fran, you're here. Paul Fetterbean, Ben Gray, Alana Griswold, a new member, Jack Iams, Kelly McHale, Joyce Miller, Jenny Murphy, Amy Party, Tyler Stone, and Deej Webb. Also, we have some board members who are stepping down, including Tom Daly, Joyce Hergenhan, Elaine Kelly, Steve Kinney, Mike Place, Alo Stokes, Patty Sullivan, and Pamela Binglamo. Now, just a moment about those stepping down. With these people stepping down, and some of them actually stepped down about almost a year and a half ago, we do have a whole complement of potential new board members that we have still not voted on. The way the revised bylaws are, the bylaws revised when we got our 501c3, is that the Sasquanaug board can vote on new board members throughout the year. So we are now going to have a standing nominating committee, which makes a lot of sense, because instead of bunching it all up into one period in the fall, as we come across people during the year, we would like to incorporate them. Sometimes they start as a volunteer. Sometimes we would like, for particular skills, to put them right on the board. So we have that capability going forward. Now, did you want to say something about those leaving?
Yes.
Okay. Go right ahead.
I almost forgot. Okay. Well, first, could all the board members on this slide who are here please stand up? Even if you're stepping down? Okay. Thank you. Okay, you don't have to stay standing, okay. But I think you deserve a round of applause. Next slide. Thank goodness for Jake telling me when to switch the slides. Oh, they didn't have to stand up, okay. A lot of people aren't here today, unfortunately, but we have a great board, and we have headshots of all of them now. So, I like Jake's picture. Are you laughing at Jake's bow tie? I like it. I think it's handsome. Oops, sorry. Yeah, hopefully you'll get an opportunity throughout the year to meet all of these people in person, real time. But we have a great group. We have a great board, and anybody who's interested in joining us, please see us by the cupcakes.
I have one objection. I think some people have used their high school yearbooks.
Okay, busted.
I think high school. I am not going to name names.
I think Jack. No? Is that your California days? Where are you?
That's actually Barcelona.
Yeah. There's so many great people on the board, and everyone, we call ourselves a diverse board, and that we're opinionated. Everybody has different perspectives and opinions, but it all comes together, and it works most of the time. So I'm really happy to work with this board. And welcome to all the new people. Oh, let's see, Ben, Alana, who else is here who's new? Kelly, I just have a special gift for you. This is supposed to be incentive for new members. So we're gonna not do the hazing ritual today, but if you would come up and please get your own official Sasquanaug board hat. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay. Now, moving along. So we have board members stepping down, and I'd like to recognize them for all their hard work and ask if you are here, to please stand up. Aloe, if you could come up here. Aloe, I saw Pamela, Patty. Who else is here? Tom's not here. Steve, Mike. Joyce. Where did Joyce? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? This is a special ceremony. Okay. So, all of these people have worked really, really hard, and they're very dedicated. They're not going to get away with just stepping down and disappearing, if I have any say in it. They're going to work as advisors and consultants to the board on many things. But we did want to thank them in front of you all on film, whatever, and say we're going to miss you very much and offer you a small token of our gratitude and respect. So, this is for Patty Sullivan.
Yes, ma'am.
Joyce Hergen. Did I say your name right? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. And Elaine's not here, so if you want her gift, come up to see me. No, I don't know where she is. Aloe Stokes, now I don't have this confirmed, but I believe you've been on the board for over 30 years? 32? 30? You lost count. Aloe, if you don't know Aloe Stokes, she's remarkable. And she's been such a help, and her particular passion is for the Southport Park. And anything you see happening at the park is because of Aloe, really. When you see what we have in store next year, and Aloe's hopefully going to be involved in that, everything, the trail, the playground, the beauty of it, and the way it looks now compared to, I don't know, 10 years ago, is because of Aloe. She's also done a lot of other work on the board. She's got unbelievable energy. I don't know if she sleeps or what she does, but I mean, I look up to her so much for her devotion and her passion, and she's fierce. And you know, when I look at the picture of the founding women, I see Aloe I mean, not that you're 135 years old. So just, we'd like to offer you this just small token of our gratitude. We're so sad to see you go, but we're hoping you'll stay around. And thank you so much, Aloe.
Age doesn't matter because you forget. That's the blessing. Being involved with Sasquanaug has been one of the most satisfying and rewarding projects I've been involved in the community. And starting off with the sidewalks. And dear Laura was very delicate in indicating why the ladies needed to have sidewalks put in. And it was because of the horse manure that was in the roads. So we have taken that to heart, and over the years have tried to preserve what was the original intention of Southport, which was to bring a community together, to work together for the benefit of each other. And I'd just like to say that historic preservation has power, and it brings the power of a community together. It provides stability and creativity, and I wish all of you who are here today and going to continue with the work of Sasquanaug the best of luck, because it will come back and pay off many-fold. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept the Board of Trustees for 2022-2023 for the Sasquanaug Association. Thank you. Approved. Where's Nelson? Where's Nelson? Nelson, are you nodding off? Yes. Okay, what do you say? I forgot what you say. Nelson's my mentor for all board meetings. What do you say when they say so moved? What? Okay, vote. Vote carries. Motion carries, right? Okay. Hmm?
You need to say all in favor.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? No.
We need to go back and do the same thing with the nominating.
Okay, should we do that now?
Yeah.
Really quick, okay, sorry. I'd like to make a motion to accept the nominating committee nominees for the class of 2022-2023. Any opposed? All in favor. Any opposed? No, you don't have to do that. Okay. Motion carries. Okay. And then I probably have to go back and to accept the treasurer's report.
No, we did that.
Okay, good. Thank you. My apologies. This is my first meeting, so can you tell? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see. I'd like to introduce Jake Chang, who's talking in the back of the room. Jake? I'm happy to introduce my Chief of Staff and VP, Jake Chang, the one in the cute bow tie, which he's not wearing today, to take it from here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So I know we're all here to hear the iconic panel with our Southport icons, but I'm going to go for just a few minutes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jake Chang. I was actually just explaining to someone, they just asked where I live. I live in one of the row houses in Southport, right next to the church. So we are in it with the HDC and making sure we're not doing anything bad and things like that. So, you know, Sasquanaug is, you know, living and breathing for us every day. So what we're excited about, and please don't do the math on it because it's our 135th season, not year. If you count it, this year was our 135. So our 135th year is really meant to do a couple things. In a lot of different conversations we've had with community members, we have kind of an idea of how we want 2023 to go. The first of which being our Southport Park fundraiser. You've heard it alluded to and all the work that Alo and others have done, but there's a lot of work that's going to go into raising money for the park and a trail that's going to go there with the Fairfield Museum, as well as other ideas around what could be done for families in Southport. So that's going to be a big priority for us. Education and awareness on many different subjects, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Community building and outreach, which involves all the events that you heard of and will review. Our continued work on town commissions, which we didn't really touch on here because it's sometimes a little hard because you can't necessarily say, here is a development that we stopped and here's what it looks like, because that would just be really strange. But the town commissions works and partners with many different organizations in town to really build partnerships and understanding with these developers and things like that to help continue to keep Southport the way it is. We're very focused on membership and adding value to membership, so that's going to be very important to us as well as merchant outreach. I think one area that we all as a town can get behind is how can we continue to support all of the merchants in a very difficult environment over the past few years, and are there some lessons learned that we can make permanent to help the merchants in the long run? And I'm not going to go through this slide. I just bring it up again only because as you hear us talk about the panel and you look at, we'll get to the note cards, Sasquanaug has always been about making sure that we hear from community members and hear what's going on rather than just having us thinking we know what's going on in a vacuum. So it's very important that we have these conversations, hear from you all to know, hey, this is something that we need to address right now, and start laying the groundwork to address in the future. So here's our list of events for the next year. It is relatively similar to last year with a few add-ons. So we have our annual meeting today, which is the kickoff, and we'll do a toast at the end for the 135th year. We'll have our holiday celebrations. In January, we're adding movie night in partnership with the library, which will be great. We're doing the Earth Day event, as well as something new. Virginia and Lori are here. So in March, we're going to do the Southport Roundtable Open House, where we're going to encourage all the members of the Southport Roundtable to do open houses where they can add education and awareness around what each of the member organizations does. I think that's the right grammar, does. And we feel that by having these conversations, people will feel less afraid or not confused about all the major issues that are going on, and then also when they want to find a solution, they'll know where to go. So we're going to hold ours, and we've talked with the Southport Conservancy, and we're going to do ours together because there are so many different things we do together. So we're excited to work with them there. We're going to have another day at the Shoe at our spring kickoff, and then Blessing of the Fleet and the July 4th parade are things that we all do with the roundtable, and then we'll have many of the same events that we have here. You'll see the swing set fundraiser, our 135th celebration, and a merchant shop and stroll are all TBD. Those are all things that, again, if you have interest in working on things, we always want volunteers, and those are kind of in process. So huge things that we want support on, so please talk to us after, especially the merchant shop and stroll and different ideas of how we can help the merchants every year on an annual basis. One big thing that we're excited about, and I see Wendy and Libby back there, we want to give a round of applause and thanking them for sponsoring part of tonight's event, so thank you. We are going to partner in the spring, it wasn't listed up there because we're still kind of figuring that out, with them to have an event that will be a panel and an opportunity for people who live within the historic district to come and understand everything that's going on, how to go through the process, because it is a black box and it's very confusing. And I think maybe it's meant to be so you don't make huge changes, but either way, we need to give context to a lot of the new people who've moved here so that they're not making decisions in a vacuum that then they get in trouble for. So we're really excited to put this together. It's going to be a joint effort, and we'll canvass all of the HDC to get people to come, because education and awareness on this issue is what's going to make Southport continue to look this way. So it's really critical. So thank you to AFA. All right, so here are the icons. So while they come up, we'll set up the chairs and we'll take a minute or two. But the panel that we're putting together is here to talk about why they moved to Southport, why they come to Southport for the community, and how we think the future should look. So I'm going to welcome Chris Franz, Blythe and Zandy Smith, and Jane Dean up to the stage. Give them a round of applause. No, I don't care at all. I'm going to sit here just because my stuff's here.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here. I think I'm going to kill this joke forever, Zandy, about you guys all being icons. So this is an iconic panel. And I want to first allow you guys a chance to introduce yourselves. So Chris, you have the mic, and we'd love to hear, who you are and how you guys came to Southport. I think everyone has a how they discovered Southport story, so we'd love to hear that.
Well, I moved up here with my wife Tina, and at the time our son Robin was 3 years of age. Our other son Egan was not born yet. We lived in New York City, and we had lived in New York for a good length of time, like 14 years. And we were musicians. We had a rock band called Talking Heads. And we had had a few good years in a row, and our accountant said, "Christina, you need equity. I want you to buy a house." And so we started looking in the area. And first we looked like in the West Village and Soho, and because we liked those neighborhoods, but they were historic, and that's one reason we liked them so much. But everything seemed so expensive. So we started looking a little bit further afield. We went to Greenwich, Connecticut. And we looked around there, and there was somebody, very nice real estate agent, showed us a house where Alice Cooper used to live. And it was for sale, and we thought, it's a little bit too expensive. He said, "Well, I know this wonderful lady up in the Westport, Fairfield, Southport area. She could show you around up there." So we really felt good when we saw the village of Southport, and we loved the character and the fact that homes had been preserved and maintained very well. Beautiful, like the set of a movie, a good movie. And so we actually, there were a couple houses right here in Southport that we thought, oh, these are wonderful. One of them, Lou Human lives in now, across from the yacht club. And then we thought, we were ready to buy that house. And then we thought, but we're in a rock band. And if we start playing loud music, after 10 o'clock at night, people probably aren't going to like that very much. So we ended up over on Sturgis Highway in a very nice home where the houses are a little bit further apart. Still, we think of ourselves as part of the greater Southport community. And we've been very happy there for now 37 years. And we have a recording studio, and we do play loud music, very loud, and none of our neighbors have ever complained. And You know, I grew up in Kentucky in a small town of 500 people called Washington, Kentucky. And my grandparents were my grandfather was born in that town. And they were very active in the historic preservation of that town, which is now called Old Washington, Kentucky. And so this is, the idea of historic preservation was, and the benefits of it and the importance of it, maintaining the character, the historic character of the community, was something that was instilled in me at a very young age. And I still feel strongly about it. And I'm happy to be here tonight and see that how many people also feel strongly about it. So with that, I'll hand it over to my friend.
I'm Blythe Smith, and I have a much less juicy story than yours. But Zandy and I are both East Coasters, but met when we were living in San Francisco, where we stayed for 18 years. And our parents were thrilled that we had met East Coasters because they thought that meant that we would come right home. We ended up having all three of our kids out there, and then just decided that it was beautiful, but it wasn't home. Connecticut actually was not home for either of us, but I have family sort of along the East Coast, but my mom's outside of Philadelphia. Zandy can give the background on where he's from, but this was familiar to us through Zandy's side of the family, and your comment about it looking like a movie set, this was exactly the East Coast existence that I would dream about when I was on the West Coast, and this fall is like the perfect example of that. And so we kind of started secretly looking because we didn't want our family to get too excited, and met up with a wonderful realtor who we became really close with and helped us just sort of get to know the town. We weren't totally sure where we wanted to live, so we were able to rent in the Village for a year, and that was a really funny story. I was on the tour of different rentals, and we went into the basement, and I saw the name Biggs on a floor mat, and I said, oh, that's so funny. We have a Biggs in somebody with that name out in California. Anyway, it was Jim Biggs's son was one of our friends on the West Coast, and so we were able to. He was one of our neighbors, right? Yeah. So we ended up renting in the Village for a year, and it was like the perfect landing spot for us and our family. And one of the best memories was having a hot cocoa sale during one of these really big snowstorms right on Pequot, and we had a line of traffic, and that was just, it was really fun. But we have had 2 kids at Trinity Preschool. Our other kids are at Mill Hill School now, so we are really in it, and enjoying all the benefits of this sweet community that has not disappointed. And I know we'll kind of get more into what some of our favorite parts are, but it has been a wonderful landing spot.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Zandy Smith. Blythe has pretty much said it all, but my grandparents, both sets one lived in Southport Village and one lived in Greenfield Hill. And so we used to come here all the time as kids and with my sisters and cousins, and we just loved it so much. So when we came to look, I really pushed to be in Southport, and Blythe got there. But, you know, we live up on Mill Hill Lane, so we've seen the Village, and then we've seen the Mill Hill Lane and Warner Hill, and we love it. And it's been such a great experience for our kids, and just for us to, you know, we've been here for 4 years, but we feel like we've been here for 20 years. Everybody's very open, you know, excited to get to know you, and it's a real treat. So I'll pass it on.
I have my own.
All right, sorry.
I'm Jane Dean, and I've lived my entire life around here, starting at Bridgeport Hospital, but I didn't live in Southport. I used the Pequot Library energetically and lovingly all my life. And I met a man whose grandparents and great-grandparents, and I don't know how many generations, were Southporters. And that was, I knew other people in Southport when I was growing up, but it was then that I moved. He and I bought his grandmother's house, 25 Westway Road, next to John Herzog house. And I was just this young married person. My children arrived while we lived there. And I learned so much about history, and I learned about Southport, and I learned about everyone keeps their house looking good. We don't know what kind of tile they have in the kitchen. The way seems to be very important now. But 65, 7, whatever years ago, it was very important that we always kept our house painted. You always had enough time, money for that. We also learned a lot, like every 10 years, a whole new wave of people move in. And that's proven to be pretty true. And you meet people, and it's all generations. And you go to the post office to buy your stamps. You end up talking to all kinds of people. And I don't know whether Sandy knows it or not, but sometimes, I don't live right in the village now. I live at Maplewood. But when I lived on Pequot Avenue, I would get his Martha's Vineyard Gazette. And then I put it back in, and then he would get it, and he probably got mine sometimes. So it's a very intimate relationship that we have with our neighbors here. And I served on the library board. I served on Sasquanaug board. It's wonderful, if you're not involved yet, to let people know you want to be involved. It's very easy. We all work together to keep it the way it is. And Sasquanaug is totally responsible for the fact that we haven't had development that doesn't fit in with this beautiful village. It's what keeps our property valuable and as well as beautiful. And I'm so glad to see people I don't know here, or new people. I see lots of people I know. So it couldn't be better. I just couldn't live any other place. It's the fun. So, thank you.
Well, great. And we'll touch on, I think, the work that the civic organizations do, but that, I won't say it can turn the discussion negative, but it can be constructive. So before that, I do want to ask you guys, and especially with kids, and Chris, you participate in so many events in town. If you had a friend coming into town and they could choose any time of year, what is the one event in Southport, in greater Southport, that you would have them come to, and why?
I think for me, I love the 4th of July parade. I love the Blessing of the Fleet, and it just gets people out, it gets the kids involved, and for me, I take our dog once a week down to the harbor and just walk around and enjoy the beauty. So with the Blessing of the Fleet and the July 4th, it's just festive, fun, and gets people out.
I love Christmas, and I feel like Southport turns into a Hallmark movie around the holidays. And so our first Christmas here, the holiday caroling party here, we took a little horse-drawn carriage ride through the village, and it snowed during it. So I think that, and I love when Santa comes down to Spick and Span. That's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, I have to agree about the 4th of July parade. I've had the pleasure of playing the drums, supposedly leading the parade, but the kids always go right by me, so I actually sort of close the parade. And the Blessing of the Fleet is, to me, really New England at its finest, and I just love it. I've got to check out the Christmas thing, though, this year.
It's happening.
And of course, the Pequot Library book sale that brings people from around the country. And I think there's not a person here who hasn't bought 1 or 2 books. Yeah. And the fun of all working together, everyone in the village and from all around, coming together under, of course, the hottest days of the year, working together is so cool. And so I think we have to be sure to mention that. But I'll tell you something about the Christmas outside caroling. That was started by a person who actually just died a few months ago in Seattle, who had moved from Ohio, from the, what is it called, the whole part of Ohio. Well, anyway, moved and had lived in this very similar place, moved to Southport, moved here, and she didn't know why we didn't have a big bonfire and sing around it every Christmas and have hot cocoa. And so that was started, I don't know, 50 years ago, probably.
Yeah, those are all good, and I have to agree. There are very few things better than summer in New England, and I think that, you know, the Blessing of the Fleet really is pinnacle of that.
Did I forget the Kentucky Derby? Yeah, there you go.
That's a good one. So, for those of you who live in Southport, what would you say moving here was your biggest pleasant surprise and the biggest challenge that you found?
All the surprises have been pleasant for me. I've had no challenges really. One challenge we had was a fellow who behind us wanted to develop his property. He had a large property. It's where the people, what's their name, Jane, from Pepperidge Farm, the family that the Rutkins used to live there, and this fellow bought that property, and he wanted to build 4 homes, one of which would be right across Sasquanaug Creek from my backyard. And they were big homes, and in order to service those homes, they needed to build a driveway which was like really wide and really would have been really disruptive. And this, of course, is in the wetlands. And so that was, we had to go to town hall and we had to go to court and fight it, but we won. But that's one reason Sasquanaug is so great. I don't know that they were involved in that particular case, but there's going to be plenty of other cases like that in the future. And, you know, as I said before, if you really want to preserve the character of the town, you have to be vigilant. Like where I'm very fortunate, my wife, her mother was from France and in Brittany. And if you're gonna, we did a renovation on her mother's family home, and they even check the color of the mortar in between the stones. This is a stone house. You can't change the color of the mortar. You can't change the type of stones that are used. You can't change the tile on the roof. They're very strict about it. But that's why people love to go to that area, and it's one of the most photographed parts of France, and they use it for films and television shows because the flavor has been maintained, and the flavor tastes good.
I wouldn't say there really have been very many negative surprises. The positive was coming to this small village and assuming that it was going to really be inside baseball, and it would take forever to kind of be accepted. And I think Zandy and I have both found this community to be really welcoming and just excited to have, you know, new blood and a young family. And so that has been really wonderful because we'd been in California for a long time and had, you know, really established deep roots and friendships there. And so it hasn't felt as heartbreaking to move as I thought it might. I guess, an unhappy surprise. The gray weather is tricky, but that's not Southport's fault. The airport is harder to get to than I wish it was. And because we now live on the other side of 95, so we're sort of, fake Southport a little bit, I feel disconnected, more disconnected from the village than I wish we were. So, is there a future where we have some sort of connected sidewalk or something there? But anyway.
Yeah, I think for me, just as Blythe's saying, when we moved, we had a 6, 4, and 6-month-old. So we loved the village in the sense of just riding bikes and taking your bikes to the bar or whatever it was. And, Trinity School was right down the street. I think we used to leave our 6-month-olds napping and, sorry, maybe we'll keep that under wraps. But just the connection to the harbor and, all the homes and everything was great. I think one challenge when we were on Pequot with 3 little kids was the traffic there and our dogs that were probably being a little too crazy. But, besides that, it's just been wonderful and we couldn't have asked for anything more. So.
It's hard for me to think of anything negative, but I want to make a comment about Sasquanaug and zoning and things like that. Not zoning, but problems that come up. I think I'm correct in saying, whether Sasquanaug represented the people in trying to keep the bad things from happening or not. They certainly always made you aware of what the threats were to the village character, and I think that's pretty terrific. I guess the negative thing I have is I believe, this is very personal, that Waze has changed the traffic pattern of Southport and other places, but I think the biggest thing is that influx of traffic. And I know everyone's worked. I remember when George Russell worked hard on it. We had one president of Sasquanaug who worked in Westport, and every morning she drove very slowly to work along the beach, Pequot Avenue and Beachside. She enforced the speed limit, and not only that, she really made all the commuters that were going to Greens Farms and the kids going to Greens Farms Academy mad. But it made a difference. And so we remember, I don't always remember to do that. But.
Well, and I think that's something that we've started to hear over and over. And to your point about how can you walk from, well, first of all, Blythe, you guys are, that is part of Southport. But an easier way would be if traffic was less intense, you'd feel less, concerned about sending a kid out to ride his bike to the village from the other side of 95. And I think dealing with the Waze issue and the traffic patterns is something that has just kind of, hit a peak. And that's definitely something that we need to work on in 23. This question is for you, Jane, because I think you lived in the historic district for a while.
I did, and my husband, my second husband, in our second historic house, worked very hard to extend it beyond where it is.
Well, and I think I'd love for you to touch on how do you balance this desire that you buy a house and you want it to look the way you want with the social contract that you sign when you buy in the HDC, and how did you balance that? And what advice do you have for people who move in?
Well, we believed it, and my first father-in-law, George Pratt, was the one who was asked by John Sullivan, our first selectman, to research historic development, historic districts in other Connecticut towns. And I remember all the conversation about it. So he wrote it and got it through. And so I'm very prejudiced, but I don't know why you would, I lived also in Edgartown, and I don't know why you would buy a house and not want the house to be fit in with. That's very naive. And so I never tried to, we had to get a permit to add a garage. But I knew we had to. I mean, that's where we chose to live here. We didn't choose to live in Westport or some other place. We wanted to live in a small, perfect community and keep it that way.
And I think that Sharon might have said this last year, and you just said again that it doesn't stay perfect because it stays perfect. It stays perfect because it's like a duck paddling under the water. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And I think that Southport is, like a lot of New England, extremely civically minded. And I'd love, and I think Blythe and Zandy, you guys just joined a couple boards around here to talk about, you know, coming from California, what was, like, how jarring was that New England mindset in a good way, where you're like, hey, I have to step up and do stuff. And I imagine that's been a pleasant thing to be a part of here.
So for context, I am on the Trinity Nursery School Board, and I just joined the Pequot Library Board. And my background is in nonprofits and nonprofit fundraising, so those conversations were probably, or those organizations and those roles were more front of mind for me and comfortable. I think we were thankful to be back in New England. That mindset sort of just is kind of what we grew up with, but we also came from a very small town in California that was really involved, and so that felt comfortable for us, and I feel like we were lucky to be able to plug in as quickly as we have. And part of that is, you know, we were immediately a part of a nursery school community, a elementary school community, a church, and so we're thankful that we kind of got to jump in right away.
I joined the Southport Conservancy through a family friend, and I mainly wanted to get involved in that just like Sasquanaug, to preserve the history of Southport. Yeah, I just love the homes, the landscape, and it's pretty much the same as when I started coming here, in the early 80s with my grandparents, and I love that. I love that feeling, that connection. And, I would hate to see that go away. So for me, it was just really important to get involved, get your name out there and help and do whatever you could to be a part of it.
And I think, like, if there's one thing that anyone who just moved here can take away, it's that this is a town where you get involved. And if you care about these things, get involved. Which brings us to the note card we have. So before I ask the next few questions and we close this out, so we have a note card with a pencil, and we'd love for you guys to write down, again, so we can hear from you, what's one thing you're really excited about that's going on, and one thing that you're concerned about and would love to hear. I imagine traffic will be up there, but there's definitely going to be something that we don't necessarily know about. So which brings us kind of to one of the last few questions, is what do you see are the biggest challenges facing Southport? Ways is at the top of our list, but
Oh, I don't know. So many challenges facing us. I suppose climate change is a big one. And I went to a very good Earth Day discussion group here. We talked about, keeping our houses and our lawns nice, but there was a woman who spoke. I thought her presentation was brilliant. Were you at the Earth Day thing here? Maybe somebody can help me. Stephanie. Yes, thank you. Edwina von Goff. Okay, von Gaal. Anyway, her whole thing was, she was a landscape architect, and she had designed, lives out in the Hamptons, and she designed many beautiful English style and French style gardens for well-to-do people in the Hamptons. And one day she had an epiphany, and she said, gosh, there's nothing, this is beautiful for humans, but there's nothing here to attract the birds and the bees and the insects that the birds and the bees eat, because everything's too clean. We're referring to the lawns and the landscape. And she was, well, she has a website, and she promotes pollination, you know, the idea that we should have flowers and native plants that attract the bees and the birds that will pollinate the landscape. And that's a big challenge, isn't it? I mean, we all want to have a nice green lawn, but maybe we should reconsider how long the grass is and what kind of plants there are.
Yeah. And I won't cut you off. I won't cut you off, Blythe, but I think someone was mentioning Sephora earlier, and that's in Southport Park. That's her mission, is bringing these native plantings that help, I mean, Southport Park is a small part of the fight against climate change, but thought leadership on things like that is front and center for what she tries to do at the park. So, I mean, I think it's critical, especially as a coastal town.
I think this is a blessing and a curse, but I feel like COVID has, Southport's sort of been discovered. And I feel like there is, as it grows.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, and it grows quickly. It's just making sure that we take the time to maintain the identity and the heartbeat of what the community is, while also welcoming, fresh blood into the community. But it's the social contract piece. How do you sort of unofficially preserve? And the Edgartown example is totally right? It has such a distinct feeling to it, and I think that the village does too, and Southport as a whole. So I love that we're growing, and I just don't want to grow too fast.
And I think part of that is the education piece around the village and the HDC. I think there are a lot of new people. Let's tell them what's going on and why.
Yeah, I think that for me is the main thing too, as Blythe said and Jake said. It's, it's just getting involved, getting the younger generation to attend these meetings or, want to be a part of it. And, I think change can be good, but you want to do it in the right fashion, right? And so Southport is a beautiful place, and I'm. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword that people have discovered it, but also it's a chance to grow and, have new faces and make it better. So, I think that's a challenge that we can all try to work on and make good.
And you know what? I think with that I can't close it any better than that. I think that's great. So, thank you all for coming. Laura's going to close us out, but thank you to the panel. And we hope to continue this conversation. And I think, again, encourage people to get involved. That's exactly what needs to happen for this place to grow in the right way, but, keep the best of what we love. So thank you to the four of you. Let's give a round of applause. And turn it over to Laura.
Thank you, everybody. All right, if there's no new business to come before the board, I am very happy to adjourn the 2022 annual meeting and would invite everyone to stay, please. You've been very patient, and we have a lot of treats. We would like to have a champagne toast in the back for Southport and everybody here. And thank you very much. So, closing out the meeting. Thank you.